Let's take a moment and just set the tone here as we just drop down and drop in, breathing into the back of our heart. And releasing any concern or residue of the past, even just the past moments. Breathing into the front of the heart. And exhaling any concern for the future, even the next moments. Feel yourself completely letting go, dropping ever more deeper into the now. And breathing into the front and the back of the heart, filling the chambers, filling the chest. And exhaling even any attachment to the present moment, present conditions, present story. Ultimately, the past is just memory, the future is just fantasy, and the present is imagination. It's the coagulation of memory and fantasy that creates a story, and that becomes congealed or coagulated or manifest as what you call your present life. But really, when you look at your present life, it is all the past. It's an artifact. And even more than that, you're mostly looking at all of your present conditions through the filter of the mind, the simulation. You're walking around in a museum of the mind, looking at pictures and artifacts, thinking you're looking at life. There's nothing alive there. It's a museum. Life is what is happening outside of the mind. Life is what is happening outside of the pictures. Behind the scene, SEEN and SCENE. So we're dropping down into that pure presence, pure life, drinking from the fountain of you, letting go and letting life live us, letting this higher intelligence and wisdom and power take us over more and more. Ultimately, everything that is happening in the world and in our lives is all conspiring to make us ever clearer, ever stronger instruments of life. There is a divine idea, a divine pattern of infinite perfection, seeking to emerge in, through, and as you, a seed pattern of purpose and potential planted in the soil of your soul. But all of the human ideas of what we should and shouldn't be and do and have to do and who we are and aren't, and all of that creates the weeds and the dust and grit and debris that covers over the seed makes it difficult for this divine idea to just blossom and flower and flourish as us. And so life brings us storms and droughts and rain and forest fires, not to hurt us, but to clear away the dead wood, to clear away the dust and debris, to crack open the seed pods, to create the right conditions for this divine destiny of greatness to emerge. And it's happening now like never before. We're being prepared, we're being called. And it might look like a crisis, it might look like a challenge, it might look like problems, it might look like lack and limitation, but it also might look like inspiration, excitement, something stirring. Just allow yourself to be present with that. But just know that if you're here and you're hearing this, you've been called. And the question is, are you or will you answer the call? Or will you let it go to voicemail, where the universe gets the message mailbox full? Like in the great mythological story, The Hero's Journey, there is the call to adventure. And then often there is what's called the refusal of the call. And what happens after the refusal of the call is things get really interesting. Things get really challenging. Luke Skywalker getting the call, "Help me, Obi-Wan," from Princess Leia's hologram. And then he ignores it for a while and goes and meets Ben Kenobi, and he tells him his destiny and his call. And he's like, "No, I don't know about that, man." And then he goes back only to find his family's been killed and his farm's been burned down. And finally, the universe doesn't give him any options but to answer the call. So you can answer the urgency of emergence, or you can let it become an emergency. You can be dragged kicking and screaming into heaven, into your destiny, or you can begin to walk voluntarily in that direction. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So just take a breath and just feel that inner yes. It's interesting. There's a lot more people on the line than I expected for this. Maybe it's because there is such a call going out. And the purpose of this call today is twofold. As always, there's something that I'm trying to articulate and speak to that's emerging. And I'm the messenger and the prophet and trying to help you hear the message within you and answer it, even though it's scary. And then in this case, with the VIP day idea is, I haven't been doing these VIP, this is not a VIP day, by the way, but I haven't been doing VIP days for years. And I stopped a lot of the work of helping people to really develop their life's work and their vision and really build it and launch it in the world for a few years as I was waiting for the call, for the new call. And recently, and there's been a lot of development going on in me, and recently the call has come very, very strongly and very, very compellingly. And it's basically, and I've been talking about this, and for some of you, this will be, you'll have heard me say this already, and you're going to hear a lot more, so get used to it. But there's obviously a lot of things converging on the planet right now, a lot of challenges and potential crises. I don't have to tell you that. And all of it is about to be greatly accelerated with the rise of AI. And I'm not here to just specifically be Chicken Little and bemoan the machines are coming and the robots will replace us kind of thing, although that could happen. And it will happen in some level. And I do want to prepare you for that. I want to set you up to not be used by the machines, but to know how to use them, to leverage them. And I want to set you up because to understand that, oh, hold on a second, is this working? Yeah. To understand that many of the things you do or want to do is going to be done by AI, but there's certain parts about you that will never be able to be duplicated. And that more than ever, understanding what is that seed of purpose planted in the soil of your soul and making it no longer extra credit to figure out your purpose and live it. Like if you think it's okay to keep kind of going along and just kind of having a little hobby or a passion and, you know, working your regular job or getting your life supported by somebody else, and then you're just gonna, at some point, you're just gonna keep dabbling, and at some point, someday you'll kind of figure it all out and write that book you've been talking about or build that business, or you don't have that time anymore. If you actually want to do that, if you actually want to fulfill your mission and your destiny, what's going to happen is happening already. And it's like what was said, the future is already here. It's just not uniformly distributed. And it's already happening. The displacement is beginning to happen, and we just can't see it yet. And so, you know, there will be, you know, there's 70,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day right now. That's going to go to 700,000 in the not too distant future, and then 7 million. And half of them will be synthetic pop stars, right? And then there's, I don't know how many millions of podcasts, that's going to go to 10 million, and then 100 million. And then who knows, whole new platforms we can't even imagine. Influencers that are now using AI to duplicate and triplicate themselves and sell them their AI version of themselves by the hour. That's already happening. Whole social media platforms where they won't need any human beings. They'll just create synthetic influencers that will be A/B testing all day long to become the influencer that's perfect for you. It's already in the pipeline, folks. Books, 1 million books published a year. That's going to go to 10 million, and then 100 million. And on and on and on in every industry, in every area, in everything that a human mind can do or create, AI is going to begin to do it. It's going to do it a lot better in some cases. Eventually, maybe in all cases. It's not the best at pure creativity right now, but it'll get a lot better. And after all, most humans are just programs after all. Most people are running on autopilot. So if you're running on autopilot, the robots will replace you because that's what it's a program. If you're just trying to do your best or you're trying to be like others, the robots will replace you. But there is, so that's the thing to understand. And it's also important to understand, you know, the experts used to believe this was going to come in like the 2030s, maybe. And it's here now. And now they're recalculating all their expectations. The guys that created this stuff are like, we don't even know how it's working and why it's happening so fast. They call it a black box. And it's not going to be able to be stopped. It's going to keep getting smarter and accelerating. And there's going to be trillions of dollars poured into this in every possible way. Computer programmers, AI can program anything just by asking it to. So there's going to be millions and hundreds of millions of new programs and applications. You think the App Store is crazy now, you ain't seen nothing yet. And so every way of life is going to be transformed. And so the big question arises, well, how do I get a foothold there? How do I make sure my job or my career or my passion or my purpose can survive? And there's a few ways, and I'll talk about them in a minute, but I first want to set the stage of why the urgency. I'm feeling the urgency, and I feel it in a prophetic way, not in a scared way. I'm not scared, but holy smokes, there's an urgency. And it was the same thing I felt before the pandemic. I knew something was coming and it was going to be bad and it was going to be way bigger than anybody imagined, and it was real and it was coming fast and nobody believed me. around me. And, and then it was what it was. Whatever you think about it, it was not good. It was very disruptive, and we still haven't gotten over so many things that have been broken: supply chains, inflation, you name it, suicide, people, mental health. That's going to be like a sneeze in the wind compared to the disruption that this is going to cause. And again, I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm saying this evolution is happening. And we have two options. We can not think it's real, put our head in the sand, go along and get along to go along, or just think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm fine. I don't really care. I don't really need that much. And end up like the horseshoers that didn't believe the Mustangs would go extinct or whatever, or that Ford Mustang would come along and take their jobs. And all the farm and agricultural workers that used to be 90-some% of society and now is only 1%. And the difference in the past is that took decades. This is going to take years or months. And we're not used to that kind of transformation that quickly, right? And so, because the exponentiality of it all. And so we have an opportunity, though. The exciting thing is the disruption this is going to cause. If you build your business, your brand, your moat, your platform, your identity, your opportunities, if you can get the urgency of this and really feel the resonance that I'm not just crying, I'm not catastrophizing. About a month ago, when I was in meditation, I got the message, build the ark, the flood is coming. I'm like, what? And as I let the message come through, it showed me all this. And about a year and a half ago, I started writing works of fiction, because to me, I had these big ideas. I'm like, well, I'm not going to write it like it's real. And I was writing about everything that's happening right now. All the scenarios I wrote about in these two novels, everybody's talking about, and they're already happening. So this has been moving and unfolding. And again, there's people out there that have been talking about this for years. So just so you know, this is real and it's happening and it's unfolding. And we have an opportunity, if we understand this, number one, to take the next 12 to 24 months and commit like you've never committed. Like an understanding that the waters are going to rise, the flood is coming. And you don't want to be standing on the beach when the tsunami crests and go, oops, and then start running from it, because it's going to be too late. You want to have the boat built, up on the scaffolding, ready to catch the wave. You understand? And the boat is a few things. And I'm going to get into more of those in a minute. But a few of them are, you need to be more deeply connected to your purpose. You need to know what you're made of and what you're made for, like you know your name. No more of this dabbling here and there, and I hope I figure it out, and oh, it's too hard, let me just do this. Unless you want to drown in the flood or have to, work for somebody else that's doing it because they took it seriously. Because you do have something unique and unrepeatable and irreplaceable. You are something the AI cannot duplicate, but you may not know what that something is yet. There is a seed of purpose in your soul, and no AI can ever take that away. Nothing. The principle that nothing in the world has power over you, that one with God is a majority, is still true. The principle that one that is anchored in their true purpose and is living it truly and fully, nothing can stand against them, is true. You will be the way shower. You will be a light. The Red Sea will part in your path. Only though if you're anchored in that. If you're not, you will be swept away in the tide. Okay? But if you're anchored in that, the power and the principle in living in your true purpose, that is a power that the world can never give you and the world can never take away. And you will have power in the world while everyone else is being powerless or being controlled or losing their jobs or whatever. And it's similar to what I said in the Wake and Wealth work. In the face of contraction, you need to expand. Another word would be you need to deepen. And so it doesn't matter whether it's AI or war or economic depression or tragedy. When you're anchored in that purpose, in that truth of your being, there is no power against you. There is no power that can take you out. You all get that? So more than ever, that's going to be a differentiator. Those that know where the power lies within them, those that know that no matter how smart the AI gets, 1 billion times smarter, they say, it will become. It will never be as smart as the infinite intelligence of the universe, which is within you. And if you're tapped into that, you're always going to be smarter than the AI. Not your human intellect, but that is guiding you, which is a part of your divine purpose, your divine seed pattern. There's something unique and authentic about you, your unique abilities, your genius zone, that when you bring that, it has a frequency and a quality that is unrepeatable, irreplaceable, that has never happened before and will never happen again. When you think about Shakespeare, you think you're thinking about a man, but what you're really feeling is you're feeling a divine code that he caught, that got embodied as a man. The same with a Jesus, a Buddha, whoever, it's called everlasting. There is the eternal and there is that which is everlasting. The reason why the pyramids are still here and are such a thing, more alive today than they've ever been, is because there was a code that was downloaded, a transcendent idea. Somebody caught it. And so wherever there is the great literature, the great art, the great music, the great innovations, the great spiritual leaders, the great leaders in any area, they caught the download of their unique soul. And no amount of time or tides or twists and turns of history could take that away, could wipe that from the face of the earth, because it's not human or material merely. It's transcendent, it's everlasting, it's a divine code, and you possess one as well. And it's your true authenticity. And so in the new AI age, what's going to become obligatory, not voluntary, is that you are tapped into your divine purpose, your divine codes, your divine power, your divine authenticity, and that you know and have the courage and the commitment to build it, to build that boat, to set it a sail, to bring it to the world. In a nutshell, and I'll get into a little more detail. But is this making sense? Because the AI will never be able to do that. That's not its job or purpose. But it will be able to do everything else. If you're trying to be somebody else, if you're trying to play it safe, if you're trying to be the thing you think people won't get upset about, or that it won't rock the boat, or that your mom and dad or brother and sister or boyfriend or husband or wife will like or won't reject or won't judge, you're done for. Because AI will do all of that, all of the status quo, and it will do way more and way better. But it can't do you. That's the really good news. And again, the opportunity is this is the human destiny anyway. The destiny of humanity is to wake up to these things I'm talking about, to download and be the embodiment of the divine on earth and inform of the divine power, the divine source, the divine intelligence, the divine authenticity, the divine codes. An AI that looks like a potentially catastrophic and will be for a lot of people is the evolutionary trigger. The forest fire that cracks open the jack pine seeds to release its new progeny and new growth. This is the trigger that, if we're willing to embrace it and commit to it, can allow for human 2.0 to emerge. Can you see that? Where it will no longer be like, oh, wow, that person's so authentic. It'll be like, that's so weird that that person is trying to be like someone else. It'll be a complete reverse. Being true, being empowered from within, being sourced from within, knowing who and what you really are and why you're alive, and living it fully and authentically will be the new norm. And when you couple that and and then you will be the master of the AI, not the other way around. And then you leverage that with AI, and you can imagine a world where there's no more disease, where every child has a better education than the best educated Harvard grad of today for free, where there's a world where everywhere you look, there's beauty and art and music, and you're just constantly having to pick your jaw up off the floor. A new renaissance, a new golden age. But, and this is important because none of this is guaranteed, if you don't heed this message, and this is not coming from Derek, I swear, if you don't heed this message and take it seriously for your own good and in your own way, instead of a renaissance, it could be a dark ages. Because if you look back in history and see the great transformations, you see the fall of Rome, you see all of the great struggles in the dislocation and disruption when when the printing press came and the church was against it and everybody was, and all the stuff that happens throughout the ages when the revelation of the Christ consciousness and this teaching of love was trying to break out. People were fighting and killing each other, and it was just mayhem. So new innovations and revelations and unfoldments and breakthroughs. I mean, look at civil rights, look at women's suffragists over and over and over again. It's not without a lot of bloodshed, usually literally. So there's no reason to think this would be any different, especially as countries and other cultures get a hold of AI and all the different stuff that's going to happen. So, but if more of us hear this message and heed this message and commit to becoming the new human, the whole human 2.0, to making these values not something we're going to get around to, or we're going to do it when we have the time and the energy and we're certain and we feel confident, we feel safe, and we have the money. And you'll just be waiting and waiting until the floodwaters come and it's too late. And again, it's not guaranteed that we can do this. But, in a way, I'm also, as I said on one of the calls, I'm kind of taking my role as one of the Noahs and building the ark and gathering the people that are willing and courageous enough to do this. So that there's power where 2 or 3 are gathered in agreement. There I am in the midst of them. There's an opportunity. Every great movement started with just a few people. And then those numbers doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They shared a vision, they shared a value set. They were seen as crazy and fringe at first, and then eventually they became the status quo. So there's going to be a whole new movement of humanism and what I call handcrafted humanity, right? Where where our humanity and our soulfulness and our true authentic artistry is going to become priceless. And again, it won't just be voluntary, it'll be oxygen. But we have to, and there's the other thing that, there's the danger of getting put to sleep more and more in the temptation of all the fun and all the different things that technology offers us. AI now and Apple now with their augmented glasses, which will soon be, cheap enough that everybody will have them like they have a phone, and we'll all be walking around living in augmented realities. That's not far off, folks. That's a few years off, maybe less. And so, and then slowly that will go into virtual realities. And then slowly but surely, like the frog boiling in water, we'll start off in a nice warm bath, and then it's a jacuzzi and we're partying. Yeah, man, this is awesome. AI, technology, I'm making all this money doing it. And then pretty soon we're like, something burning? And then we realize we're boiling alive in this stuff. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you today. And I want to invite a few of you at the end today to, if you're willing and interested, and I'll tell you more about that later. I want to get to more of the specifics here, and there'll be time for questions and all that. Because I'm opening back up, I've just opened back up a few things, the VIP days, and I'm probably going to open up again with the impact work that I used to do, because I see now more important than ever before. We need an accelerated way for people to tap that are truly feeling the urgency of emergence, to tap into that grand plan within them and to put it all together and to get it out there and to get going and to develop the courage and to, break through the thresholds, which I'll talk about more. And I know some of you know already what that is, because left to our own devices, these thresholds are designed to prevent us from evolving. And more than ever now, we have to hack that evolutionary trigger that stops us from breaking through and evolving, because AI doesn't have that. And that's why humans, if you look into the future with science fiction, what do you see? The machines, the technologies, they've gone light years into the future. How about the humans? They're still killing themselves and each other more than ever before. It's dystopian, it's destructive. That's a projection of the pacing of how we tend to evolve. To flip that so that we are more awake, more aware, more enlightened, we have to overcome this evolutionary trigger of the threshold. And my experience is that when we just do a little here and a little there, we can never overcome it. We keep snapping back and defaulting back. That's why the average person does not live 70 to 90 years. They live the same year 70 to 90 times. Changing a little bit of this, changing a little bit of that, changing their locations, change their job, change this project, change their underwear, but it's the same story. They're still in this pattern or program, which the ego is designed to keep you in. And I've designed a process to break you out of that multiple times in a single day, so that at the end of the day, it's like having evolved many, many months or years. People have done it and said, I've been in therapy for 20 years and I've never understood my life and shifted things as much as I have in a single day. So I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I want to just talk a few more things about, I think I've expressed why this is so important and why it's an emerging mission for me. And also that this internal resistance I'm just touching on. And also, by the way, this resistance, the more we are pushed upon, it tends to push back stronger. So because there's so much going on in the world right now, there's so much fear, there's so many viruses of the mind, so much polarization, so much fragmentation, right? Balkanization of thoughts and parties and teams and all this stuff. The resistance in the collective field is even stronger, right? The fear, and it's what I mean by that is it looks like we're doubling down on something righteous, but if it's polarizing us, it's all resistance. It's disguising itself as I'm on the right team. I'm on the left, I'm on the right, I'm with them, I'm with this color, this race, this religion, this story, all of that is resistance, disguised as righteousness. And that's what happens in a society in the beginnings of its decline. That's what happened in Nazi Germany before Hitler rose to power, and we know how that ended. That's what happened in the socialist examples when Stalin and Mao, people rose in communism when they rose to power, and we know how that turned out. Or if you don't, you should look it up. It ain't good. Tens and tens of millions of dead and progress halted and all kinds of destruction. So these are all the signs. And we're in what's called right now the fourth turning. And there's patterns if you look over history over many, many hundreds of years. And we're in a great pattern of transformation right now. And so the resistance gets really strong at the apex of that turn. And so more than ever, Again, the way to fight the resistance is to not fight or join the resistance, but rather to serve what is emerging. I was just talking about this on the last call. Some of you were on that call. We don't want to try to change the world. We don't want to save the world, because if you try to save the world, you're in resistance. You're on a team. You're against it. We want to serve what's emerging. Now there's no resistance. But to do that, you've got to commit to that, and you got to know how to get through the thresholds and all this other stuff I'm going to talk about. But it's really important to understand, and maybe some of you are feeling that. You're feeling both the urgency of emergence and the compensatory pushback of the resistance, the fear. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. What if it doesn't work? I don't know what to do. You're kind of feeling these forces seem to be getting stronger. Okay, just like when the sun rises, the shadows get longer at first. Okay, it's the same kind of thing. So this is really the main reason, because I see all these elements and I've been watching them happen, and I feel this call again to talk about what really matters, what's really emerging, and try to invite and inspire as many of you, one way or the other, whether you continue to do stuff with me or not. I don't care. I want to make sure that you get it, that you feel the resonance, that it scares you enough in a good way, that it shakes you awake to understand that, not that because I'm saying it, but because you feel the resonance to it, and that there really is something unfolding, and the excitement that you actually could ride this wave, that you could leverage it, you could use this energy and have a quantum leap in your own evolution. And some of you, many of you know me and have known me for a while, that I'm not speaking theoretical here. I've been doing this work for 20 plus years. I've faced many challenges, recessions and depressions, and the tragic deaths of loved ones, including my child, loss of millions of dollars and a fortune, terrifying diagnosis, family members getting cancer. I've faced most of the big ones. But as a result of knowing this and practicing this and committing to this, no matter what, I don't just survive it, I come through it thriving more creative, more on purpose, more opportunity, more abundance. That is the core principle that I teach, right? And that's the practice that I bring, the protocols that I bring people through when I work with them in an in-depth way, especially like in a VIP day. So there's 7 core things I want to cover, hopefully not take too long to cover it so I can get to your questions and stuff. But there are 7 core things that I've already touched upon. This framework is what will allow you want to do this, again, no matter how you do it or with whom you do it. In my study of all the greatest leaders, teachers, creators, innovators, evolutionary people, these are all there in some way, shape, or form. And when somebody gets stuck or struggles, these things aren't there. Now, for those of you that are going to hear me say this and you've been around for a while and you go, oh, I know that. Oh, I've heard that. Oh, that's the same thing. I want you to notice something, that wherever you bump up against, I know, there's a name for that. It's called a closed mindset. It's stagnation. And you think you have the answer. The answer is hell. The question is heaven. And I was just talking about this in the last class. If you think you have the answer, you're living in hell. But if you're living in the question, you're living in heaven. Question means the quest you're on, ever expanding possibility. Hell is you stopped learning, you stopped growing, you think you have the answer. That's called stagnation. Guess what will never get stuck there? AI. Because it's always learning. That's how it's designed. It never gets stuck on an answer. It's forever open to learning. And so if you want to compete with anybody, including all the experts, you don't want to get stuck either. So I would encourage you, if you think you have the answer, notice the part that bubbles up, that's resistance. And be ye as a child to enter heaven. be a beginner's mind. Hear it for the first time, because unless you are rocking it, unless you are doing everything you want to do and living the life you want to live, and you are flying and shining so big and powerfully, you couldn't even imagine a better possible life, then you don't know the answer. You get it? Because the answer isn't a construct or a concept in your mind. The answer is living in the quest, living in the expansion, living in the overflow. And so I just encourage you to notice that. That's actually an important trait that I didn't even put on this list. It's kind of an overarching thing. So the first thing, which again, you've heard this many times, is you must start with saying yes to your yes. That inner yes is the evolutionary catalyst. That burning desire, desire means of the sire, of the father, of the creative impulse. Don't get caught in, well, should I do this? Or is this the right thing? Or is this my ego? Or is this my soul? But actually become dedicated to knowing, what do I truly, truly, truly want? As if, crazy thought, imagine God was inside of you. Imagine the divine mind was in you, and that was the only mind you had. Just saying. So that when it spoke, would you be like, huh, is that my spirit or my ego talking? Or would you be like, I hear you, I will obey? Now, I know you could say, well, yeah, but what if it's not the divine? And, it's not always the divine mind. But I'm just saying, that's the practice. It is the divine mind. There is only one mind. But the only way that one mind can operate through you is if you start serving it, if you start trusting it, if you start acting, act and think as if you start honoring it. Now, you'll make mistakes, right? When it'll be a game of telephone for a while, where you're hearing the message and God is saying white cat in a poodle skirt, and you hear black box in a, and it's like you get it all wrong by the time it gets through all the layers, like the game of telephone. And that's okay. How else are you going to get good at it? If you wait for the right answer, if you wait to be certain and sure, and to make sure you don't make any mistakes, well, then what's going to happen? Nothing. Well, actually, something's going to happen. You're going to atrophy. That channel of guidance is going to get smaller. You're going to get worse at it, not better. So you must commit to absolutely knowing your burning heart's desire, working to know it, and then whatever is your best guess, saying yes to your yes. And that's the only way we evolve. There's no evolving if you say no to your yes. Okay? That's what blocks you. That's what starts you to stagnate. As you hear me say over and over, the Gospel of Thomas, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. That energy will run amok. Brene Brown says, unexpressed creativity is not benign, it metastasizes. It becomes cancerous, it becomes destructive, it eats itself alive. And if it doesn't eat you alive, the AI and the world outside will do that job for you. So you have to make a vow and a commitment. I'm going to honor my inner yes. And at first it might be kind of quiet and you might not be sure, but that's the practice. And when you say yes, that's what calls forth more of you. You must make a bigger demand on your system to call forth the potential. That's how evolution works. When you go to the gym and you lift weights to the point of failure, to the point of tearing your muscles, that gives a signal to your body, we need to send more energy there and store it, and it grows your muscles. You have to make a bigger demand. The way to know where's the bigger demand is follow your yes, the big yes. That activates the process of growth and change which by necessity and definition means old yeses will have to be let go of. You can't keep saying yes to being an acorn and yes to being an oak tree. You can't go, but I want to hold on to my protective shell and make sure I don't get hurt. And, I'm afraid of heights. And you have to let go of the acorn. You have to let go of what got you here. As the saying goes, you have to burn the boats. In the 80-20 rule, the 80% that gives you, the 20% that gives you 80% of your results eventually becomes 80% and only gives you 20% results. And now you have to let the 80% go, which there's a lot of good in that still, in order to say yes to the 20% that will give you the whole new 80% results. In business, as a person is developing their work, the CEO or founder or visionary is always the bottleneck, because what got them to the level they're at is now in the way of the level that's trying to unfold. What gets you to 6 figures won't get you to 7 figures. You have to have a different set of values or focus. It's a different yes, but it also means letting go of some things that you've learned to cherish, find comfort and familiarity in. Could also mean letting go of people, right? Saying yes to your yes might mean saying no to some old things. And nevertheless, there is no way of growing unless you do. You can't turn back and look at the old city, or you'll turn into a pillar of salt. You have to keep looking forward, looking inward, saying yes. And so that has to become a new habit. And so you can practice that all day. There's little ways you can do that. Find little yeses. But just remember, you're building up your ability and your muscle to say yes to your yes. And just know, every time you say no to your yes, even if you have all the good reasons in the world, I really want you to hear this, because one of the things the ego has developed over time is a really good immunity, an immune system to evolution and growth as a way to protect you. And so you have the yes bubble up in you. You feel the resonance. You want to do this thing or be this thing or whatever. And then you find a really good rational reason to say no. Anybody? And you can point, you don't understand, Derek, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I'm not feeling good. My mother-in-law is sick, my kid, whatever. And you can get a lot of people to agree with you. And you might have even gotten really good at getting people to agree with you about all the reasons why you can't, or you shouldn't, or it's not possible, or it's too late, or it's too soon, or you're not enough, or you're too much. How if I need to first say no? Yeah, you might need to say no to other people, but you need to say yes to you. That's a tough one. If you're a people pleaser, I got to say no to you, Bob and Sue, because I'm saying yes to me. Who the hell do you think you are, Derek, saying no to me? Like, it's scary. It takes courage. Or you have to invest a bunch of time in something with no guaranteed return, instead of a lot of time with hanging out with your friends or doing whatever. Or you got to invest a bunch of money in something, and what if it doesn't pay off? What if this is all my savings, or whatever the thing might be? And I've done all of those. I've invested my money to the point where I can go bankrupt. I've invested my time to the point where I might turn around and have missed all the best opportunities because I gave it my all. I've invested my life and my livelihood to the point where I might not be able to support my family. I've been at the brink, at death's door and bankruptcy and all these things, and practiced in those moments. Because if you don't practice when you're scared and it's impossible and it's hard, that's like going to the gym and only lifting the weights you can lift. And guess what happens? No growth. All the treasures you need to fund your life and to have a fun life are on the outside of the wall of your fortress that is built by the map of your reality. Here's your map. Here's what you can do. And here's where everything, all the goodies are. The answer is on the other side of the wall you can't get through. The growth is in the rep you can't do. And usually you can't do it on your own. That's why you need community. But with support, you can push that last rep or two. That's where the muscles tear. That's where the evolutionary impulse happens. That's where the growth starts. There's no growth before that. When you have no money, but you decide I'm saying yes anyways, and I'm going to figure it out, you have to dig a deeper well. You're in the desert and there's no water. You dig a deep well, you find a hole, you find water. Guess what happens? They build a city around that hole and you become the founder of a new city out of nothing because you had to, because you said yes. So on the other side of I can't, I'm too tired, it's too late, I'm too scared, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't have enough. No, let me wait, let me feel safe, let me take a breath, give me a break. On the other side of all of that is all the goodies that you want. That's what it means to say yes to your yes. And you may not like that answer, but I'm telling you what I know for sure. So now you can't say yes to your yes as we get to the second one. I know I'll go a little faster here. You can't get to your yes if you don't know yourself. So be yourself is saying yes, right? But you can't say yes to what you don't know. Now, again, I said there's a way to start by just whatever your best guess are, your best guests. Yes, I can talk. Your best guess is, right? So, but you cannot really truly be yourself if you don't know yourself. And so know yourself, be yourself. What does it say above the Oracle of Delphi? Know thyself, and to thine own self be true. You have to know yourself. Most people, and I mean most people, maybe 99.9%, know more about their smartphone than they know about themselves. Most of you here, if you're honest, know more about your computer and your smartphone and maybe what the Lakers or your favorite sporting team is doing than you know about yourself. And that means your phone is smart and you are dumb. That means guess who's running the show? Your phone. You hear what I'm saying? Now you think your phone is smart. Wait till it's run entirely by AI. When it knows your moods before you do. And it can bring you things that you need and want before you even know. You'll think you're making choices, but you won't be anymore because you don't know yourself. Your phone knows you better than you, and you know your phone better than you. So who's in control? You know the person that controls you? The one that knows you the best. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? So you got to know you. And that takes a commitment. And you cannot make it to this next level without this. You can't say yes to your deepest yes if you don't know what it is. And if you don't know yourself and you don't know the patterns that are running you and you haven't learned your deepest desires and understood what your life story has made of you and all of that, you can't be honest and authentic to yourself. And remember, AI can never be your real authentic self. But if you don't know what it is, you can't be it either. And so you might as well not have an authentic self. But that is your secret weapon, should you choose to know it. So we have to be committed to studying our life story, cracking our life code, understanding our map of reality and identity, our deeper mission and our purpose, our life's work, our life's questions. What are the big questions our life is trying to answer? The question is the quest you're on. What is that? What am I made of? What am I made for? How often do you really spend asking and contemplating that? Now, maybe you guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, are more so than the average person, I would assume. But I want you to understand, even the best churchgoer or the best spiritual student, you know how much time they spend in really getting to know themselves? It's not a lot. Again, if you look at their screen time and I'll come up with a funny meme, their screen time in the phone tells you how much screen time you've spent versus your self-contemplation time. It's like 12 hours a week or 25 hours a week there, and maybe 25 minutes over here. And that actually is probably high for a lot of people. Even to spend a consistent 25 minutes getting to know themselves every week. And I don't mean like getting busy and doing work and being productive. Okay? You want that to flip. You want your screen time and your me time to flip. So I used to be spending 5 hours a day on my screen time and 5 minutes on my me time. And now it's the opposite. Throughout the day, I'm stopping and I'm knowing myself. I'm taking time. I'm getting down like James Brown with who and what I really am. And it's boring and it's tedious and there's nothing there sometimes and everybody else is having fun and everybody's racing ahead of me and I'm not getting the work. Believe me, they're all in a desert and you're the one digging the well. And right now, they're just drinking from their bottled water, but pretty soon that's going to dry up. And you're going to be the one with the well. Okay? Know yourself. And then you can be yourself. And the AI can never stop anybody who knows themselves from being themselves. Okay? Nelson Mandela in a prison for 26, 27 years. They couldn't stop him from knowing himself and being himself. And he left out, he was freer than anybody in that was his oppressors by the time he left. And because of that, he ended apartheid. He became president. He changed destiny because he knew himself. He was the captain of his ship and the master of his soul and his fate. And on and on and on with all the great leaders and teachers and artists and people who broke through the noise, who broke through the density, who transcended the evolutionary challenge. And then the next piece, in order to really say yes to your yes and to know yourself and to be yourself, you have to have number 3, which is commitment. And this is a 4-letter word for a lot of you. And let me just be very clear. Commitment to this is not 99% committed. 99% committed is called I'm not committed. Like saying I'm 99% pregnant, right? I'm kind of pregnant, I'm kind of there, kind of pregnant, right? Or like a pressure cooker. The lid's kind of on, well, then it's not going to cook right, if at all. Commitment means I'm all in. In a breakfast of bacon and eggs, the eggs, the chicken is just, making a contribution, but the pig is committed. Okay, right? The pig is all in. So you got to be a pig in the best sense of the word. You have to be all in on this. If you understand the urgency, you understand the resonance and the truth, you have to say yes to your yes to evolve and to know yourself more deeply. You have to commit to knowing yourself and being yourself if you're going to bring forth your true humanity, your true authenticity, your true purpose. And you must be committed to this, no matter what. As the poem says, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves. Only then. That's right, Tom. Don't get eaten for breakfast by AI. So you must commit your life to your life. You must make that decision. It means to cut away everything else. Cut away the emergency exits. Burn the boats. Don't look back lest you turn to a pillar of salt. Commit to your destiny no matter what. Or you will just not be able to access your true power and push through the unconscious programming or get the escape velocity to break through the gravity of inertia. You won't. And most people don't. It doesn't matter how hard it is. It doesn't matter how scary it is. It doesn't matter if the cockpit's shaking. Oh no. If you understand the laws of aerodynamics, you understand, just stay with it, boy. Keep the throttle on, keep going, and then woof, you get liftoff. There's principles here. And then this next piece, number 4, is that, it is really important and necessary as you're building this, that you know that you are going for clarity of direction, of purpose. It's not just, I'm generally knowing myself and knowing my life and how it's all cracked up and what's going on, and I'm saying yes to this is for a reason we're doing all this. There's a purpose here. There's a seed pattern in you, right? Something wants to grow and produce fruits and flowers. And so we must get and work towards specificity and clarity. Without clarity, you are hesitant. Without clarity, you are fragmented. Again, that doesn't mean don't keep moving and taking action with your best guess. But the reticular activating system, if the vision and the goal and the purpose is very blurry or very general or very fuzzy, it's going to operate on that fuzzy map, and it's going to give you a fuzzy return. So you do need specificity. A gardener going into a garden to grow the different things has to know what the seed is. So it knows how much does it need of this, how much of that. So it knows how to create the right conditions. And this is really hard and most people never get here because they don't do any of the things before. Because there's so much dust and debris and sediment on top, and we've been so conditioned to not look within, to not spend much time in contemplation, to not really know ourselves. As I already said, instead we've been conditioned to know things about things, but not to know ourselves. And as a result, we haven't developed the capacity to really, truly know this purpose, know this vision and goal. But then what happens is we play this little self-help circular game of, well, I'm going to wait until I have all the clarity, and what if this is my spirit or my ego talking, and all these things, and then we don't iterate. So you must act upon the good you know. As it says, God suffers a stillbirth every time we do not act upon the good that we do know. So you can't wait for it to be perfect. In Silicon Valley, they call it an MVP, most viable, what is it, MVP? Most viable, forget the word, somebody put it in there. Basically, as Seth Godin says, most viable product. Seth Godin says, just ship it, right? And nowadays with technology and all that, you can iterate on the fly. I mean, why do you think you get a new system software with your Microsoft or your iPhone or whatever, and then a week or a month later, there's new downloads, because they're just fixing it as they go. They're not waiting for it to be perfect. But you're working towards this iteration, this clarity, this streamlined focus. And then number 5, you need structure to support you. There's too much temptation, distraction, inertial patterns pulling us. You can't just now take all this and just hope tomorrow it all falls together, right? A vision without a plan is a fantasy, and a plan that's not on your calendar is wishful thinking at best. And even more, for many of you, you've got the plan, it's on your calendar, and you're still not doing it because you need accountability. You need somebody, a mentor, an accountability partner, somebody to hold you accountable. You need structure. You need a backbone, not a wishbone. Just like certain trees need that stake in the ground and a rope tied around them because they'll just flop over. A lot of you will just flop over. So to grow straight and true, we need structure, and we need to get it whatever it takes. And then finally, or not finally, in the 6 is the threshold. And I've been talking a lot about this is really the secret to evolution or stagnation, because once we develop our map of reality and identity when we're growing up, what happens is now that gets locked in place. This is the world. This is who I am. Okay, we're done. But that's not the world. That's just your map of reality based on experiences. And that's not your identity. That's just your short-term coping mechanisms. This is what you think you have to be to make it in this map of the world, right? It's a good start, and you need to work from something. So you start, and from an ego standpoint, an evolutionary standpoint, if when we were evolving as humans, if we grew too fast, we wouldn't have made it. We had to grow slowly. Slow mutations and selections and adaptations. But as evolution has sped up because of technology and all of that, slow evolutionary style adaptation is not enough. You just get pummeled and stagnate, because imagine when evolution first started, it's like the world is going this slow and you're going with it, but the world is speeding up. And if you're still going this slow, you're going backwards, right? And especially with AI. So we need to transcend this evolutionary coping mechanism. And one of the reasons it's doing it, again, it thinks based on your childhood mapping that this is reality and identity, and it's always trying to keep coherence or consistency, or it's trying to, keep everything, what's the word? There's a word. Just keeps making the math work. It has to keep balancing things out so that nothing changes. And because that's the program, that's the system software, and anything that could really threaten change will be seen as a virus to the software. And this immunity will kick in, and it has a really, like I already said, a lot of ways to convince you that you can't or you shouldn't, and here's all the reasons why, and here's all the bad things that are going to happen if you do. But when you understand that's just you coming up against your map of reality, that's you trying to get to the center of the matrix, to the programmer, and it's trying to keep you away, because if you get into the program, you can dismantle it. And it thinks it's helping you. It's not your enemy. It's trying to be your ally, but you got to be boss. That is an old AI that's operating. And you need to upload new data sets. You need to be willing to go beyond that and challenge that and see that. And that's how you eat the challenge, and the different emotions. The fear tells you you're believing a lie. The anger, frustration tells you you're letting your values and boundaries be violated. The shame and the grief tells you you're holding on to the past, and et cetera, et cetera. But there's messages in here. When you start to look through the mess and see what the story is and challenge the story, and then go back to, but what is trying to emerge? Instead of trying to save yourself, which is, oh, I'm scared, I could get hurt, I could go broke, I could lose something. Let me actually come back into feeling safe. Then the pattern and the program and the ego has won. And that's why Jesus said, if you try to save yourself, you'll lose it. But if you're willing to lose yourself, you'll find it. You'll have life eternal. Meaning, if you're willing to challenge these thresholds whenever they come up, and you got to understand the thresholds, which means you got to know yourself. When they come up, you challenge them. You don't back away from them. You learn how to move through them. You don't compensate and cope. You learn that pain point is telling you you're at the edge of your map. And then you learn how to understand what the deeper meaning or what's really trying to emerge. And you let the death happen. You let the fear and the let go happen, like the caterpillar liquefying in the chrysalis, to go through that passage of fear, doubt, worry, challenge, crisis, tearing of the muscles, so that on the other side, you grow new limbs, new wings, real evolution happens. This is what all the great masters were trying to teach. This is how you transcend the hypnotism of material appearances and mental appearances. You have to understand it will feel scary and dangerous. It will feel like you're going to die. And it's a trick. It's like the Truman Show, where every time he started to get into a boat or go to the forest, he was conditioned with learned helplessness to believe bad things were going to happen because his father drowned, and he has a whole story, and better not do that. Well, why? Because if he challenged those thresholds, which he eventually does, what draws him? Vision, love, something bigger than him. And he has the courage to go for it. He breaks through all of those thresholds, and what does he find out? He was living inside a fake reality. And there's a whole bigger world he transcends. That's a metaphor for what we have to learn how to do. And the challenge is, a lot of you here are getting inspired and like, oh my God, you're having all these ahas and you think I've got it. And then maybe not tomorrow, because it doesn't happen. It's not like in your face. But slowly but surely, the frog boiling again, the door closes. And you look back days or weeks or months from now, and you're like, what happened? I thought I changed. I thought I had it this time. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Right? It's very subtle. It's very ingenious. It's had millennia to develop how to make you think you're changing while you're really not, or convince you that you can't. But either way, it's got you. Right? Or just make these little changes, kind of rearrange the flowers, rearrange the deck chairs on the boat. I want to move my furniture around and I'm changing, feels so good, and getting some of my to-dos done. And you think you've changed. But you're just rearranging furniture in the same house, in the same story. That's what happens for most people. Oh, that's funny. Thankfully, frogs are smart enough to not fall for that slow boil trick. So we have to understand that's happening to us. We have to understand that what we're seeing and feeling most of the time is not an accurate perception. It's a magic trick, right? It's a sleight of hand by the ego to keep us in the matrix of our mind. And it's only going to get, now just imagine, again, when, that's just our mind. Now imagine when everything else in technology and everything else in our life has got super intelligence. And it knows us better than we know us. It's a matrix inside a matrix. And it's going to know that because it's going to also eventually understand our human matrix, how we cope and delude and hypnotize ourselves. It's going to understand that code. And it's going to know exactly what to say and do to make you feel what you need to feel in the moment to stay trapped in the matrix. It's not science fiction, folks, but we have a way out. So obviously listening to this and, the final piece here before I tell you the final thing is, all of this is to say we have to build a new operating system. Taking everything I've talked about, we have to build that into habits, practices that become habits. Because the way that we normally by default focus, think, feel, be, and do is based on where we've been and not where we want to go. And it's based on survival and coping and not visionary living. Most people's system software is based on survival and coping and having some good stuff and the latest iPhone and some good Netflix and maybe a vacation a couple times and I'm good. That's going to get you, you're going to be toast. Unless you like being a cog in the system or a circuit in the motherboard. But actually, if you study the great innovators, artists, thought leaders, teachers, visionaries, people that live a true life, Their system software, their operating system is not the same. It's got all these things I'm talking about, and they consciously upgrade their system. And that's by developing practices that are in alignment with these principles until they become habits, right? So and what you build as habits is based on what you commit to consistently. And what you commit to is what you value. And if you've been listening, I'm giving you a new value set. And if you value this new value set and you commit to it, and then you build practices around it, you build a system software, an operating system that is habitually running those value sets. And you get what you actually value. You think you value certain things, but whatever you've got right now is because that's what you actually value. We won't go into all that today, but it is. You get what you really value, not what you say you value, but what you really value. And most people value comfort, security, safety, security, value not failing, not looking bad, not losing money, not going broke, not, they have a lot of away from values versus the person that values greatness and legendary living and making a big difference and love and service and creative excellence and being the best version I could possibly. If you really value that, you listen to the great innovators and leaders throughout history, that's what you can see. They're obsessed with those values. That's what we need to. As Confucius said, all men are alike, or all men are equal, but it is their habits that separate them. It's this system or operating system that separates them, men and women, obviously. So again, these 7 steps are essential. These 7 pieces are essential. I've never read of a great leader in any area of life that has, or even just a really successful, happy person that doesn't in some way embody these. And this is what I help people do, all of this.